What's up, you guys? It's your girl Angela with Aspiring Boss. Welcome back to my channel. Today's video was actually inspired by a Facebook memory that I got yesterday. So Facebook reminded me that I took the LSAT 8 years ago. Oh my gosh. My first reaction was like, dang, I'm getting old. But my second reaction was to reflect on where I am, after that experience. I remember being super stressed about the LSAT, like many of you were or are currently, and disappointed that I didn't do as well as I expected to do or hoped to do. As you guys know from the title, I didn't do that great on the LSAT. I was trying to look through my records to remember my exact score, but I think I got like a 153 or 155 or something like that. I was definitely in the low 150s, low to mid 150s. And as many of you guys already know, like those types of scores do not get you in the top schools. And yeah, they're just not a great score, right? But that inspired me to make this video though, because to me, my LSAT score back then, I thought it defined my future a little bit. I thought it limited what I could do because it, wasn't that great. And I'm here today, 8 years later, to let you guys know and, to remind myself that that score didn't define anything. All it was the score to a test. And yes, it prevented me from maybe going to Harvard or something like that, right? But it did not prevent me from having a great law school experience. It did not prevent me from having a great job experience. So I thought it was important to make this video for any of you guys out there who are kind of struggling with your LSAT score or what school you decided on and things like that, to hopefully offer some motivation and encouragement that the score on your LSAT does not define what your success will be. So let's talk about it, right? With my LSAT score back then anyway, the statistics did not look good for me. The statistics basically said that I had a higher risk of not passing the bar exam, a higher risk of failing out of law school after the first year. And let's talk about reality though. With that LSAT score, my first year of law school, I was in the top 5%. I had a 3.9 GPA. I ended up graduating magna cum laude. I got 4 separate Cali Awards. And so for any of you guys who don't know what a Cali Award is, it's basically you literally got the highest score in that class out of everybody. So that happened to me 4 times. Yes, this girl who didn't do great on the LSAT, I made law review. I had summer associate internships at the top law firms, both my 1L and 2L summers. I had 2 job offers before I even started my 3L year from 2 of the top law firms in Houston. I've passed 2 bar exams on the first try, and I am now a 4th year associate, clicking along, doing great in my career. So I say all that to say that your LSAT score does not define your success. Now, I will put in a disclaimer though, that some of my decisions to move forward with law school was not done out of faith in myself, honestly. It was really done out of ignorance. I wasn't doing the right research. I wasn't talking to the right people. So I did take a leap of faith, but not an educated one. And so that's one mistake that I will say that I made that I would advise any of you is to take educated leaps of faith. Do your research. With that being said, though, I don't regret anything because look where I still ended up. I am not naive enough to think that that's everyone's story. So I do think it's important to do your research and be aware of the risk, right? So what I mean by that is with a low LSAT score, what does that usually mean, right? It means that you are likely to go to a lower tiered school. And unfortunately, in the legal world, if going to a top school propels you even more. Like, yes, I made it to big law. Yes, I had amazing grades. Yes, all these great things have happened to me. I've won these awards and these accomplishments. But if I went to a better school, I likely wouldn't have needed such great grades to get to some of these places, right? I would have had the ability to be put in some of these great positions without working as hard or needing to work as hard. But you know what? I don't regret any of it. But like I said, you should be aware of the risk. A lower tier school, you do have to have top grades in order to get into some of the great firms. Like, for example, the 2 firms that I told you I had offers from, they would not interview you at my school unless you were in the top 5% and you were on law review. So if I had not, done the work and been blessed enough to be in those positions, I might be in a different place today, right? Like, I'm not still at the firm I started at. I lateraled, obviously, but it's so much easier to lateral when you start in big law. You can literally, when you start in big law, my personal opinion is that you can literally go anywhere. Also, another thing to consider, some of the best firms do not recruit at lower tiered schools. There were several firms in Houston that did not even come to my school for like interviews and stuff. Like they didn't even come. If you wanted to try an interview with them, you had to basically do a resume drop. They didn't even come to interviews, which I think is insane, but that's a conversation for another day. Another risk is the lower your LSAT score, the more likely you are to get less scholarship money, or worse, no scholarship money, which puts you in a worse position when you graduate, right? You'll have more debt if you take out student loans, or you or your parents will have spent much more money for you to get that law degree. That's probably my biggest regret, because my biggest pain right now is my student loans. If I had less student loans or no student loans, I'd be much further along in life, because I wouldn't have to take some of the money that I'm using to, invest and buy assets and just overall build wealth. Is some of that money is going to my student loans. And so if I had less or none, I'd be there faster. So I do think it's important to be aware that with a lower LSAT score, you're much more likely to go to a lower tiered school, which could put you at a disadvantage to your peers. So now that I've hopefully, washed away some of your fears or some of your doubts or whatever about your LSAT score or lower LSAT score, let's talk about how to overcome that lower LSAT score, right? So I'm not just going to sit here and say, oh, it worked for me, so it should work for you. No, that was motivation that it can work for you. But let's try to do some work now rather than hope it works out later, like I did. The first thing is consider retaking the LSAT. You can retake the LSAT. I know it sucks, but if you can retake it and you truly are going to put the work in to try to get a better score, again, it could propel you to a much faster track to success, because if you start at a better school, your options are just going to be better. That's just the reality of the legal field. It's not necessarily the fairest, but that's just what it is. Another thing you can do is consider taking a prep course. Honestly, I think you should take a prep course. I'm not gonna lie, I took a prep course, but looking back on who I am now, my work ethic today, my work ethic in law school, I could have took that prep course a little bit more serious. Back then in college, my efforts weren't as strong as they are now and as they were in law school, because I didn't have to try that hard back in college. It was just a different ball game. And so looking back, I should have put more work into that prep course. I paid all that money, and I don't think I took it as seriously as I took law school and the bar exam and things like that. And if I had, again, it probably would have just been a much easier track for me. Again, I don't regret anything because I'm in a good space, but it just increases the odds for you. The next thing is, what does that GPA look like, right? If you have a pretty great GPA, but your LSAT score is low, it kind of, balances it out, because that's what law schools are looking at, right? They're looking at your LSAT score and your GPA. For me, I didn't do that great in college. I did way better in law school than I did in college, which is crazy. But again, my work ethic was different. My mindset had changed by the time that I went to law school. I started getting really serious about college later in my college career. So the first 2 years, I wasn't making the effort. I wasn't getting bad grades. Like I graduated probably with, I think, like a 3.4 something, because I barely missed graduating with some honors. But if you have a good GPA, it does increase your chances of getting into a better school. And honestly, for any of you guys who are watching and you're in college or you're going to college, that's something to be mindful of. Start off that first year of college hitting the ground running. Don't be like me and get serious closer to your junior year. You need to be serious freshman year, day one, right? Because that's something you can control. You can control how hard you work and what kind of grades you get in college. The LSAT is a standardized, stupid test that has been proven to be biased against certain groups. So it's more of a risk, I think. But good grades is just the result of a good work ethic, studying hard and really just making the effort to do well. The next thing you can do is have an amazing personal statement. You guys, personal statements are underrated. Like, I do really think that they read those things. And if you have a compelling story, you have a compelling background, you just can speak to certain experiences, that will draw these law schools in and really see something in you to want you at their school. Another thing you can do, and this is not something that I did, again, just not researching and really, just being aware, is do an LSAT addendum, basically an explanation of why your LSAT score is low. Like I said, I can't really speak to that one because I didn't do one, but there's all sorts of resources here on YouTube and Google that can help you draft an LSAT addendum. The next one is apply early, right? Like, if you apply early, you have a better chance of getting in because they don't have all these applications. So they're more likely to take you on. So if you know you have a school in mind, but your grade and LSAT combo is not there, apply early. It'll increase your chances of getting in. The next thing you can do is ask for personal recommendations. Like if you know any alumni of the school or any other lawyers or just any of your professors or anyone that you think their recommendation might, you know, sway someone, I would ask for those recommendations and submit them along with your law school application. The next thing is consider applying to more realistic schools. Like if you say you want to go to Harvard, but you have a 3.0 GPA and a 149 LSAT, unfortunately, you're likely not getting into Harvard. Sometimes you just got to be more realistic with your goals. And my last piece of advice is honestly, still shoot your shot, right? Like I said, you might need to be realistic and apply to certain schools, but I wouldn't just not apply to a school that you might get into, right? Shoot your shot, get that application fee waived if you can, and shoot your shot and try, because you never know. And the way that things are going now, law schools are wanting lawyers versus the other way around, right? Less people are applying to law school. So if you're applying this year or next year, it might be an opportunity. So I would go ahead and shoot your shot. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Like I said, I didn't want this to be a long drawn out video or anything like that. I just have been reflecting on, you know, the fact that I took the LSAT 8 years ago and just reflecting on where the statistics said I would be versus where I am. I'm leaps and bounds over that. And so hopefully this has been motivating and encouraging for any of you guys out there struggling with the LSAT. One thing I do want to say that's encouraging as well is by the time you get to these interviews with these law firms when you're in law school, no one is pressed about your LSAT score. I don't recall anyone ever asking about my LSAT. Like that's not something that we talk about. At that point, all they're worried about is what you did in law school, how you did in law school, and what you're doing, the activities you're doing in law school. So 8 years later, the LSAT does not matter. All it mattered then was to get me into school. I got in school and I did the work and I'm here now. So with that, I'm gonna let you guys go. If you have any questions about some of the things that I talked about, like the personal statement and things like that, like the specific action items that I talked about or specific things that you can do to overcome a low LSAT score, DM me on Instagram _theaspiringboss, comment below, email me. Just let me know if you guys have any questions or if you guys want a specific video on any of those things. I'm happy to do one. I just wanted to give you guys some encouragement. Started from the bottom, now I'm here, okay? So don't let that LSAT score count you out, okay? Because it does not define you and it does not define your future. So with that being said, if you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you have not subscribed to your girl, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. All right, see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.